Welcome everybody to the
Enthusiast. Let me say that again. Welcome everybody to the Candle Enthusiast. I am your host, Shane Carlson, and I want to wish everyone a happy Halloween 2022. We have a really cool live stream for today. Now, it's going to be short. It will be short because we all have plans, right? It's hours until the big day. But I knew I had to do a video today. I knew I had to do a live. We do these weekly live streams, and I had to pick something a little extra special to talk about today, and that is going to be the rarest Yankee Candle in my collection. Now, I am very proud of my Yankee Candle collection. It's something that I've worked on for many years, and you know, it's not so much about collecting for quantity. My objective for my collection has always been to illustrate the the story of the Yankee Candle Company. So there's a lot of curating when it comes to my personal collection. I call it my archives. As it stands today, it exists of roughly about 1,000 Yankee candles, ranging from the very oldest Yankee candles from uh, the early 1970s to modern day. Uh, Roughly about 1/5, maybe 1/6 of my collection consists of all Halloween candles. But there was one Halloween candle that I always wanted. I remember many years ago seeing it, and I'm like, wow, what is this? It's so it's so mysterious and elusive. You know, the name was very vague. The picture seemingly simple enough. And I remember hunting for that candle. I'll tell you what it is in a second. Calm down, calm down. And this had to have been like 12 to 15 years ago. I remember seeing it go for $1,900 on eBay. And I'm like, whoa, okay, that's probably a candle that I will never own. But something in me blossomed that day. I'm being silly for dramatic effect because I spent years trying to get that candle. I should tell you the name. It's called Halloween. Yes, it was the first ever Halloween apothecary house warmer jar released by Yankee Candle. Black wax. And, certainly back in those days, there were no such thing as fragrance notes. And throughout the years, I found people who did have it in their collection, or maybe they weren't a collector, but they did own it and they shared pictures of it. And I tried to ask them, what does it smell like? What does it smell like? But they really didn't have the tools to really dig deep into the aroma and thoroughly explained what I needed to know about the candle. I heard a lot of smoky, I heard a lot of patchouli, I heard a lot of black licorice and charcoal, things like that, but um, that wasn't enough. So it's about 2 years ago now, I believe, about 2 years ago. I uh, I found someone who was cleaning out the house, trying to raise money actually for their sick dog. Their dog was had a lot of uh, vet bills, and they were trying to raise money. So I asked them, well, I not only would I love to contribute to that, but this candle is something I've wanted for a long time, and it's the candle. If there's one to own for me and one only, it's this one candle. And I think we worked out a very happy honest, fair deal that worked for both of us. And I finally got my hands on this candle. So before we break it out, I just want to pull you folks up in the chat area. How are we all doing today? I said I'm going to keep this relatively on the short side today, but we'll still have a good hour or so. And let me turn this volume down. And so pull up a chair, pull up some, get some coffee. I have never shared this candle. It's right there over my shoulder. I have never shared this candle on my channel. And to my knowledge, I mean, yeah, it's not been on YouTube. I mean, if it had, it'd probably be a very popular video because everybody is curious about that candle right there. So first time on YouTube, really, I think the first, uh, first official kind of evaluation of this candle online in general. Yankee Candle Village and Yankee Candle Corporate actually don't even have any information on this candle because that was my first goal. First step was to make sure to see if they actually could help me find the candle. All right, so I have you guys pulled up. Let's start this thing, shall we? Now, all right, it's not very hard for me to get enthusiastic. So, and it's certainly not when it comes to this guy here. So, I have it in this glass box. It's not usually in this box, but I put it in this for display purposes. Otherwise, I keep it tucked away in my shelves. And we'll take it out and we'll first examine it visually and see. Whew, you know what I mean? You know what I mean. I mean, if you don't, you can imagine, I'm sure. We're all fans here. So yes, so house warmer, apothecary jar. If you look at the black bands of the past, there's a lot of variations. There were taglines. Candle actually was removed at one point. But my point is the way everything's formatted on the jar right here, we can see that this is from the mid 90s, which was when the apothecary jars were first introduced and utilized for Yankee Candle. These classic apothecary jars. They used other apothecary jars, but we're referring to this classic silhouette. And your eyes do not deceive you. As you can see, that is a very, very black, opaque paraffin wax. You can see that there's a little bit of shrinkage throughout the years, some dimplage, little pores in the wax. But shockingly, I was actually very surprised of the overall condition, since this was held by really a non-Yankee Candle collector. If I had to guess, this was probably kept where they kept their Halloween decorations, maybe in the basement. Maybe it was in a cabinet somewhere, which would have been good. That's perfect, not perfect, but very good storage conditions. But regardless, it is in great condition. I love this. I love pointing this out. So we're talking mid 90s, right? And I don't know if we can read that, but this original price tag from the Yankee Candle Company, $18.50. Now we commonly complain and we're upset about the prices of candles. Yet, really, candles haven't gone up that much in 25, 30 years. But, you know, back in the mid 90s, not 18, 19, $20 for candle, that's some serious change. This would have been an investment for sure. Let's take a look at the bottom here. You know, we can see that this is before the UPC codes. And really, there's nothing on this label that signifies what the candle is. You know, we all know that we can tell the batch number, the pour date by looking at contemporary stickers, but these just would have been just any candle would have gotten the sticker, is what I'm trying to say. Now, have I smelled the candle? Of course I've smelled the candle, but I just couldn't wait for this opportunity where I would do it live, because I really don't have a consensus. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have yet a beautiful way of describing what this is. We're gonna put this together ourselves. All right. It's a big moment. It's a big moment. It's a moment worth celebrating. And I know I'm going to be getting these thumbs downs because I'm postponing the inevitable here. Hit that thumbs up button, would you? At least for this. Here we go. It's on there tight. Okay. Let me just say this. That's Halloween. Like, if there's one thing on earth I'm grateful for, is that after all these years, after I found this candle, that it smells the way it does. Maybe not what I expected, but at least it smells as wonderful as it does, because it's not just a generic candle that could be any time of year. This is a very, very specific, very familiar smell. And I'm going to grab a couple of other candles so we can talk about them in contrast with this one. I think a lot of you guys are probably won't be surprised by a couple of the choices here. And I should probably grab this one. And if anything else comes to me, we'll take care of that. All right. In the comments, not the comments, in the chat section, if you want to do in the comments too, you can. Let's talk about what we would assume that would smell like. What are you guys thinking? So, I believe that most of us, maybe not, but most of us are familiar with Yankee Candle's Happy Halloween. This was retired in 2016. 2016, that's, ooh, maybe it was 2015. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But this was Yankee Candle's staple. probably even more so than Witch's Brew for many years. It was their very sweet, very friendly, bubbly, candy-esque take on black licorice. So much so that it kind of borders that fuzzy root beer, cola, medicinal smells, old-timey candies, root beer barrels, and of course, licorice whips. But it's, Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola Classic. Now, why am I talking about that? Because there is an extreme black licorice aroma in this candle, but it's not this friendly, bubbly candy store black licorice. No, 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 no. This is medicinal licorice, strong, herbaceous, and spicy. This is something that we would imagine, you know, walking into an old boutique, right? And it's just like one of those like New England boutique like peddler stores where they just have tons and tons of stuff, and everything on the shelves are dusty and old, and they've been trying to sell them for so many years. And up in the corner, there's a jar of uh, some old licorice whips, right, that have dried out and not stood the test of time, certainly, and are from an era that where candy was far less sweet. And I'm trying to paint this portrait because this, like I said, although most of my associations with licorice are candy, this doesn't feel like childhood. And now that I'm smelling it, I might have a description for that black licorice. This is yeah, I mean, if we smell this and then go to Yankee Candle's black licorice, I mean, it's like this is Willy Wonka compared to this guy. But licorice, we're dealing, well, if we say root beer at least, we're dealing with all of those herbs and spices, the proprietary blends that go into making that beverage. And maybe it's the raw ingredients that we smell. There is a sweetness, but it's a perceived sweetness. It's not like it's tugging on my brain. I mean, I will say, like, Good and Plenty's are coming to mind. And maybe that's a good example because Good and Plenty's don't smell fruity. They don't really smell like candy. They just smell like licorice. When you eat them, they're sweet. So maybe there is this perceived sweetness, but there's something else. Boner Jams, Super Chat, $9.99. Thank you, buddy, so much. Let me read your comment here. Happy Halloween, Shane. Hope you're doing great. Love the live streams. Hope everyone in the chat has a great Halloween as well. Thank you very much. And yes, I think that's a great message to spread to everyone who's here and who is not here. Okay, so yes, there is a very distinct licorice here, but let's talk about the other components. Now, they might not nearly be as strong as that black licorice, but there is a couple of nuances that make this really unique. And we have to keep in mind that this candle is, how many years old is it? It's hard to say for sure, but let's just say 25 to be safe. 25 years old. So we're dealing with an aged candle that you know, to me, doesn't smell spoiled. It certainly if I smell this on the shelf of a candle store, the last thing I would think is, oh, this candle is old. So it's it stood the test of time pretty well. But we do have to consider that maybe some things have changed. Now, there is pleasantly this smokiness. Now, this is dangerous territory because it would be easy for me to say, oh, it's really we could say fireplace, we could say campfire, we could say extinguished candle wick. There's so many ways to elicit the idea of smoke, but this really is an example where the smoke feels so distant. It's like we walk into that haunted house, uh, and the front door has been boarded up for decades, and we're the first living souls in that house, and we take a stroll around, and we go to the fireplace. Would we still smell smoke? That fireplace probably hasn't housed smoke or fire for so many years, decades. But there would be that lingering sense that smoke was once here, correct? Yeah, yeah. And that's what I'm getting here. I could probably twist it and say ashy material. I could probably twist it and say some form of incense or charcoal. But I really want to say smoke here. Now, the question is that really what was in this candle? I mean, they didn't have fragrance notes back in those days, but if they had, would they have listed smoke in the candle? I don't know if they would. Based on how the smoke comes through here, I don't know if they would. And something that I smell, and maybe it's my imagination. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be upfront and say it might be my imagination. I've smelled it more in some scenarios than I have perhaps right now. I've smelled this quite a bit throughout the years that I've owned it, and sometimes it seems more prevalent, prominent. But it does have, I was going to say non-pumpkin spice, not pumpkin spice, but there is spice there because of that licorice. But a hollowed out pumpkin, a gourd, right? We cut it open, and we take out all the stuff and we smell inside, and there's that really cold space in there where we just smell the flesh of that pumpkin. Yeah. And then if we say light a candle in there and we let that sit out all night, and then the next day we come back to that jack-o'-lantern and we throw out the candles that were inside the pumpkin. Now we have that vague lingering smoke, that smoke that was once here. That's how I would like to see this candle. A bag of old-timey Halloween candies, a sack, sitting next to the pumpkin on the front porch that has been hollowed out and carved and has had flame burning in it for a long while. And the lingering smell, kind of like the day after Halloween, like Linus and Charlie Brown at the end of It's the Great Pumpkin. Another Halloween has come and gone, Charlie. It's that moment that the season changes. We reminisce about all of the memories of Halloween and the season behind us and all of the years that came before. But it's that moment where we look to our future and we lay before the holiday season We lay before that cold that's so rapidly uh, heading in our direction. I like that visual. I like that visual. Could be different for you. Certainly would probably be different for you or anybody. But that's how I would like to visualize the internal portrait of this candle. It is not super complex. No, it's not. This is not something that I would say is a huge achievement by the folks at Yankee Candle. Most likely, when this was released, it probably wasn't even a popular item. We have to remember how the holidays were different back then. I don't necessarily think, the candle industry at that time was really popular in the sense of it's Christmas, I got to get Christmas candles. No, it's Christmas, light up some candles. It took years and years for the idea of, oh, it's approaching Halloween. People are going to be putting out their Halloween products. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a very, very limited release of this candle. And maybe this was only released in the general vicinity of the Northeast. That is very possible, because ironically, all of the candles that I have found of this Halloween candle were owned by folks from the Northeast, specifically more of like the New Hampshire and Massachusetts, Vermont areas. Something else about this candle was that it did seemingly have a sister candle, a sibling candle, and that would have been Yankee's Trick or Treat. It was kind of a spicy version of candy corn. It was like candy corn, sweet, very, very large, big time confection, but had some of that cinnamon spice in it. And I, I don't have that original release. There are several out there, but I've never really found one that was full enough to really own. Like I don't mind spending a good amount of money for a candle for my collection. I just don't want to buy an empty jar. However, um, the second release of that Trick or Treat candle right here, so roughly 1999 here. Can't say anything for certain, but if my math and my research um, serve me well, this would have been very late 90s, which to me even doesn't seem that long ago. It's kind of hard for me to think of like the 90s being a really long time ago. I know, I'm getting old. Let's have a smell of this one. Yeah, so this one is even a little bit different. Later releases, there's more of that spice. This actually kind of does just smell like candy corn, this Trick or Treat. Um, so I don't know. And the fact that Yankee Candle eventually split Trick or Treat, candy corn, and then also had the swirl candle that became Trick or Treat. Confusing, I know. Maybe they really weren't sure what scent they were trying to decide on. Maybe it did change a little bit, which would mean that if the prior release of this Trick or Treat candle, there's the possibility is very big that it was unique that first year. What I can say to that is prior to all of these jars, the Halloween candles that Yankee Candle had for sale are right here. So yes, Yankee Candle had Halloween products. They certainly did, but that Halloween jar was the first apothecary house warmer jar. Just to be perfectly clear, these were the 2 cents that existed before. Now these came in these pillars, these roughly 3-inch pillars, but also in tapers. I have a few of those stashed away. We have Halloween candy, and we have haunted house. Now, the big dilemma for me here is it's good news and it's bad news. I found both of these, and so pleased that I did, but they're in actually such good condition that there's no tears. Usually with old packages like this, there will be a little tear somewhere, or just a little perforation, but they're sealed so well. Even still, there is some aroma that comes out of here. It's hard to find it. See, there's a tiny, tiny little hole. You're just gonna have to take my word for it. I actually am not really smelling much now, but I'm almost certain that I've gotten a sweet candy corn aroma out of that. Now, the question now is, this haunted house pillar, if this pre-existed this Halloween candle, and you can see they're almost the same color, there's much more blue in this black. You know, you wonder if this was a natural evolution, if this haunted house candle became the Halloween candle. So let me just take a quick look. I have my thoughts based on that. There's not a hole, but there is kind of a separation right there of the plastic. I think it's just so cold. That they're not throwing off aroma. But when I have smelled this before, vaguely, because like I said, it's in the wrapper, I did get a form of black licorice, perhaps a little patchouli. And it boggles my mind, because then was this an earlier version of Witch's Brew? Or was this an early version of Halloween? Or a mixture of the two? And that's complicated. However, I did make a little bit of a discovery. So not in the pillar, but these two came in the tapers, as I said, with a third. And that third was Witch's Brew. So when I found out, I don't know how long ago that I found that out, that these three were sold together, I'm like, okay, well then the haunted house can't be an earlier version of Witch's Brew. They wouldn't sell two of the same candles, and would make much more sense if it was the licorice driven candle. So that is I think my best guess was Halloween candy would have been probably the first version of candy corn that existed, probably late 80s. I know that Yankee Candle had Halloween products, but these things are probably long gone. You know, stuff from the 70s, early 80s, because these, again, they probably weren't doing seasonal items, at least not like Halloween seasonal. The haunted house for me is a very, very early rendition of what became Happy Halloween, and before Happy Halloween, that was Halloween. And Witch's Brew remained Witch's Brew, still to current day, but that's a whole different story, because Witch's Brew has certainly evolved throughout the years. It is a very interesting progression of how the profile has changed. And you know, for those of you who don't know this, I'm going to repeat it, but I do say it all the time. I own every release of Witch's Brew. I'm just going to move the camera real quick. So this is a part of my Halloween shelf. It's a little bit disorganized right now because I pulled some candles, but this is an early uh, country kitchen Yankee Candle of patchouli. So I can cross-reference the patchouli fragrance with very, very early witch's brew fragrances. So I have every version from the original release right here that would have been released the same year as the Halloween candle to current day. So one day we really should sit down in real time and go through all of the witch's brew releases throughout the years and kind of trail how that aroma has changed. What do you say? I think that'd be fun. But unfortunately, this means we're going to be taking a break from Halloween after today. But I am actually excited because we get to go into further into the Halloween, or excuse me, the holiday season. So there it is, folks. One day, the reason why I postponed sharing this candle is because I really wanted to make a special video. I just didn't know how. I had some ideas. Um, I was thinking maybe if I took this to the Yankee Candle Village and spoke with uh, their some of their tenured staff there, we could just have a discussion. But uh, Halloween just seems to come and pass every year so quickly. So I want to open up some remaining moments of this live to any questions that you folks might have, any comments, possibilities of some comments here, what we would like to see as we head into November as far as content, what we feel like, you know, uh, what we should set our sights on is, even when it comes to travel and, more of the adventure videos. I'm excited for this season. I usually get really nervous this time of year. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just a residual anxiety that I have from childhood, going back to school. Um, Question. Does it smell like sambuca? It does. And I love your descriptor here. Sambuca is, um, I don't know what category it falls into. I don't believe it's a liqueur. I should know this, but yeah, it's a very herbal black licorice forward spirit, and stuff is dangerous. And then going off of that, we could even talk about how the licorice component in the Halloween candle mirrors absinthe, because absinthe commonly has, I mean, it all depends on the proprietary blend, what you're distilling the absinthe with, but usually it has that classic profile, has that black licorice or basil profile. It's a very good question, or good question, but good descriptor. Virgil saying, "Wow, getting goosebumps. I need this candle." I'm telling you, I'm telling you that that was a journey. When I received it, I almost didn't have, like, when I opened it up. I was terrified that it didn't that the woman who sold it, she only wanted to ship it. I was willing to drive hours to pick it up. So you can imagine my terror, because I've had, I would say on average every year I have about 20 candles broken that I receive broken in the mail. And if that had broken, I mean, how do you deal with that kind of trauma if that broke in the mail? What do you do? I mean, you can't even throw it out, right? Like, even if it's just like bits and pieces of glass, like you can't throw it out. So thankfully I got it in very good condition. But even when I finally put it on my shelf, which was the moment I felt like this is me and my story as a candle collector, this was the pinnacle. When I put it on my shelf, there almost wasn't a sense of relief because it was hard to believe, you know. Yeah, I mean, it's stuff like this wasn't a game for me. It's still not, but this meant a lot to me to own this. I wanted to be the caretaker of one of these candles. Virgil, huge shout out to Virgil. Uh, big supporter of this channel, and he's Virgil actually sent a couple weeks ago. We talked about those Goose Creek candles, the trio, Witch's Cauldron, the Trick or Treat, and Candy Corn. I might be getting those mistaken, but he sent them to me and to evaluate on the channel. So huge, huge thank you to Virgil and his $20 super chat today. Happy Halloween, everyone, Virgil says. Thank you so much. After dinner drink, the Sambuca. Stephanie, yeah. That aperitif, right? I haven't, all my time in Napa and all my friends, worked in the bar restaurant arena. I never really worked in the restaurants, but Sambuca wasn't served often. What was uh, Fernet, that digestif, that after dinner uh, liqueur esque spirit. Man, that stuff is dangerous. That stuff is dangerous. Did I say aperitif? I am sorry. Who am I making these mistakes? It's been a long time since I have been out of the beverage industry. It's kind of embarrassing. Sometimes like the easiest wine question will pop up in conversations with folks, and I'm like, and I just simply can't remember. It's true. It's like if you don't use it, you lose it. Digestif. Are you visiting the humbugs this year? So I have every intention to do so. But, I've learned from previous mistakes not to promise. By humbugs, I'm sure what Omega means is Santa's Village in New Hampshire, up in Jefferson, New Hampshire. We're going to have to play that by ear. There's no reason that I can imagine I shouldn't be able to. Maybe weather might be one. I have to rent a vehicle because I have a tiny little toy car. That car can't handle, the December weather up in the White Mountains of New Hampshire this time, or December. So we'll have to work that out. Any other questions that we might have? You probably asked them and I missed them. Okay, Shane, do you have any special plans for Halloween? Hello, Carol. How you doing? Do I have any special plans for Halloween? Well, not as of yet. There's been a lot of surprises this year for Halloween, but I will be with family, so that is a huge plus. The reason why I'm keeping this live a little bit short, making it a little bit shorter today, is because I'm picking up my brother from the airport as soon as I close this live. EPC will be in the house shortly. We'll see. I don't know. I think just a good drive out in the country, really taking in, the time of the day, the evening of, as the sun's going down and Halloween and the leaves rustling and feeling that cold, maybe even seeing trick-or-treaters. Like, I just love to absorb the images. That's really all I need for Halloween. And sure, I will choose a spooky movie to put on the television for the evening. I'm actually just about finished with Stephen King's It, not the film, the book I talked about a couple weeks ago. It'll just be about 2 weeks by the time I finish this book. The mammoth, that one. I'm almost certain it's the longest book I've ever read, unless you consider Lord of the Rings, one volume. But man, it's been a very rewarding experience. And huge shout out to K Perez Creations. And she's got a question for us. $10 super chat. Thank you so much for that. Shane, could you describe your concept for a haunted house scent? Many thanks. So, haunted house. Okay. So this is a good exercise. And I'm glad you asked this. It would be very easy for me to just throw out an easy answer. But if I truly were to make candles, like let's say I was getting into the candle business, and I was going to produce candles, and my objective was to create, one of the candles being a haunted house themed candle. Where would I take it? Well, to me, the first question when making a decision like that is what are we going for? Are we going for a Disney-esque, not necessarily a haunted mansion, but think of an old Disney Mickey Mouse cartoon. The wind's howling, the trees are blowing in the wind, windows are shaking a bit. Like there's a fun spookiness to that. So do we want the mood to capture that, or do we really want the mood to capture, that abandoned house that sits in everybody's town? It has all of those stories. Some completely made up, but certainly some have to be real. Do we want it to smell like that? Well, I think the objective there is to really cross those streams, to really have a little bit of both. I think it should be pleasant to smell. It shouldn't be dirty. It shouldn't be ugly. I think the way to look at it for me would be how can we make this candle smell spooky? How can we make it smell dilapidated? How can we make it smell rotting and decayed, but also capture a glimpse of how it used to smell in the past and all of its glory? JM, super chat, thank you so much, JM. Happy Halloween to you. Yeah, I think, to me, what really strikes me when I walk, and not to an abandoned house, but just a really, really old house. My grandmother's house, it's still in our family and it still exists and it's in great condition, but it's a very old house. And when you walk inside, there's so many smells, just the years of, physically just sitting in the sun and roasting in that sun, and all of the smell that's captured inside, and the furniture as it ages, all of the fabrics, these are the things I think of. But what's interesting about my grandmother's house is that you can really, the foundation of the house is so old. It's really, I can't even venture to guess, maybe 150 years, could be older. Uh, but it's the house is on this rocky foundation, and you can just smell it, permeating through the floor. And it's a creepy smell, I suppose, to some, but it's actually quite comforting to me. You know, there's a comfort of walking into a house that's been cared after for a very long time, and it's just a familiar smell. So I think there should be pleasant smells, things that evoke the idea of plush furniture, antiqued furniture, wooden staircases, lingering smells of brandy and cognac from the liquor cabinets, uh, aging spices in the spice cabinets, but also a little bit of that decay of plaster, that saturated, broken down pieces of timber uh, from the old construction, and the idea of like cold stone, maybe just a little bit of moss. I don't know. That's my take. That is my take. Thank you for that question. And thank you for your super chat today. Vegan for Animals says, nice to catch your live, burning some Halloween candles and relaxing. Well, thank you for doing that. With us, I mean. Washington Wicks says, not candle related. What coffee are you sipping on today? So this is, I really wish I mixed it up more than I do, but this is going to be Blue Bottle. I'm trying to remember what I ground this morning. I think it was Giant Steps, and to be honest, I just pulled some at random for the live today. I'm not sure what I'm currently drinking, but here's something that I will admit, you know, you know, I feel kind of embarrassed, but I shouldn't. I actually, for this month of October, I said, heck it. I went to the grocery store and I bought some pumpkin spice creamer. I know, I was shocked too. And I've been using it for my coffee during the month of October. Now, why is that shocking? Well, because I drink my coffee black. I'm a coffee purist. I don't like anything to alter the flavor profile of my coffee unless it's the idea the coffee should be, for me, should be consumed the way it was meant to be expressed. And, but, sometimes you just got to celebrate with some seasonal coffee creamer. And honestly, I'm getting a little kick from the sugar buzz every day. How about a line of candles? The Haunted Mansion, Amityville, one more time, got it. Wings Castle, Borden House. Brings up, the question of making my own candles has certainly been one that, that's been a question since the very beginning of this channel. And I had every intention to do so. It's just, I think one day it will happen. I think for me, what's important is I don't want it to be a gimmick. I don't want to release candles to sell for my channel, to peddle to you guys just because I made it, and that's really the only kick. If I make a candle, I want it to be good. I want it to be a candle that would have its own success, whether it was attached to my channel or not. So I think really what concerns me the most about producing candles is the performance. I have no doubt that that I think I could work on something and to hone in on the aromatic profile on cold. But then there's the whole other story of how it performs and how that aroma blossoms when it's airborne. What scents linger, what scents kind of die out fast, which ones really don't spread. Um, that takes a long time. And if I'm going to put my name on it or the Candle Enthusiast name on it, I just feel like it's a large thing to live up to. So one day, one day. All right, folks. Someone throw one more question at me, and then we'll have to wrap it up for today. But while I'm waiting for that question to pop up, uh, just a quick reminder for all of the ways you can help support the channel. Patreon, folks, description section down below, link. Also, other ways to do that. Straight up donations, pledges, all for future videos. Not for financial gain, but for future videos. Let's have a reserve of some cash flow for some of the seasonal things that we'll be experiencing this year. Very much appreciate, very much appreciate the support. T-shirts. It was a T-shirt I wanted to do for Halloween this year. I actually did do it. I created the design for the T-shirt, but my schedule was so hectic that I never formatted it with the actual merchandise and released it. I'm gonna have to save it for next year. This is very nice. K. Perez says, "You're doing what you're destined to do, making films / videos." Well, thank you. I feel the same way. I really do. Maybe I wasn't meant to be a filmmaker, because that certainly didn't work out for me. But since I was 3, one of my favorite things, if not my favorite thing to do, was to make home videos. And I feel in many ways that's what I still do when I go out with my camera and make a movie. It's not like making a video. It's not making a documentary. It's not professional. I really feel like I'm constructing home videos. And I think there's something to that. I think there's something in that I think is why it still intrigues me and why I would like to experiment more and more with the style that, I don't know, that I don't know. I feel like it's a style that I've developed over the past 7 years. Still has a lot of evolution and, I think a lot of ways for it to find its voice. Formula is what I mean. Autumn leaves and autumn wreath are the best 2 Yankee candles for the fall, says Pat. Well, it's hard to disagree with that. All right. Here's a good question to end on. From Truth Over Lies. Perfect name for this question. What do you think is the best performing Yankee Halloween candle of the last 5 years? So 5 years would put us at 2017, which would have been my second year of this channel. I'm just trying to get the year straightened out in my head. I mean, there really is only one answer to that. I think there's only one answer to that. Certainly, if they released it today with 2 wicks in a larger jar, I think it would be true. I think the answer to that question would have to be Yankee Candle's Haunted Hollow, 2017 release. That was a softer wax. It was I don't know what the blend was of that wax. I'm sure it wasn't soy, all soy anyway. But very, very powerful candle. And just the very construction of the candle itself, the aroma, it's meant to be an aggressive smell. But it only was released once. It was released in the 12-ounce tumbler, single wick, and then it was also released in the melt cups, and perhaps some, maybe there was a couple other things that I'm forgetting, but certainly nothing bigger than that 12-ounce tumbler. I wonder if they brought it back with 2 wicks, how powerful that thing would be. So I would say Haunted Hollow, but to be honest with you, there's some really good ones. You know, even 2020s, a jack-o'-lantern, that's a good candle, guys. I mean, I don't know. We could be bored of pumpkin spice candles, but we can't say that's a bad candle, can we? That's a really good candle. You may not be partial to it, but it's still a good candle, right? Like, just objectively. And although the Spooky Spider Cider is not necessarily an aggressively powerful candle, I think it works beautifully on in its in its in a subtle manner, right? It doesn't need to be huge and bombastic. It can exist with a little bit more discreetness. I wish there was tons more to talk about, but really we're only dealing with a handful of candles. We had Haunted Hayride, the Trick or Treat candle, not to be confused with the earlier versions, the Mystic Moon, Jack-o'-lantern, Spooky Spider Cider, Forbidden Apple, the Haunted Hollow, Witch's Brew, Black Magic. Black Magic is up there too. I don't know why no one really talks about it anymore. Like, that should be a more sought after candle, I think. That's my opinion. That's really it. I guess we could throw in, yeah, I mean, there's some other autumn ones that are borderline Halloween. But that's a good question. Very good question. Dale, I just want to say a big shout out to Dale. How you doing, buddy? I am so bad with correspondence, and I am remembering now that I'm seeing your name, that you've sent something to me. I'm afraid that it may have been a long time ago, but I'm wishing you and yours very happy Halloween, and I'll shoot you a message very soon. What a great guy, and what a great meeting. I just bumped into him randomly. Dale, he's with us. Bumped into him randomly at Santa's Village. I saw him and his wife taking some photos at Santa's Village, and I'm like, these look like fun people. Let me ask them if they wouldn't mind being in my video. So they were in my video, but then we proceeded to talk for a long while, and we just, like, the most genuinely nice people in the world. And from that one chance meeting, we have stayed in contact for several years now. All right, folks, I got to hit the road. It's been nice talking to you. Have a happy Halloween. Stay safe. And remember, it's not necessarily about, here's my attempt to give words of wisdom. Remember that Halloween is not just about what you do. It's very important, I believe, to consider who you're with. So, if by chance you're spending the holiday alone and you're not completely convinced you should be doing so, now's a good time to pick up that phone. Seriously, do it. Like, really, come on, do it. Make sure that you're with good company, safe company, and this way the memories will uh, embed themselves, and you'll have them for many years to come. You know, call up your parents. You know, if you're not seeing your parents this Halloween, call them up. Do it. They're your parents. Wish them a happy Halloween. That's going to be it for me, folks. I want to thank everyone. Please make sure you can do what you can to help support the channel, the future of this channel. And we'll see you folks again next week. And some edited videos coming our way very soon. It's a daunting task doing the holiday stuff, but I'm excited this year. I'm excited. Yeah. We'll see you soon.